of building on success, in my opinion, first you need to develop skills, then you need to develop character traits to make sure that you do those skills, and then you have to make sure that your beliefs are correct so that you can open up the world, right? But the beliefs are kind of imbued throughout the entire process, because if you don't believe you can acquire a skill, you never will, right? If you don't believe you can have a character trait, you never will. And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's looking to, switch career paths. She was trying to figure out, she wasn't making as much money as she wanted to make. And the issue that she was dealing with, she's like, she just doesn't have a valuable enough skill set, right? And she's like, I want to make this much money. And I was like, well, you're never going to do that doing what you're doing, right? And I was like, have you considered learning how to sell, right? I mean, because if you sell, you have a far, if you still have the desire for security, but if you know how to sell, you can, pretty much write your own paycheck if you know where to look. And she was like, I'm not good at sales. I'm not a salesperson. And I was like, well, how many hours of sales training have you gone through? She was like, well, none. And I was like, well, then why would it be reasonable for you to be good at sales, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. Of course you're not good at sales. Like you haven't done it, right? Well, it's the same thing. Like, well, I'm not a very marketing type person. Well, it's like, well, how many courses have you gone through? How many hours a day do you spend studying marketing? Well, none. Well, then why is it reasonable that why would it would be unreasonable for you to be good at this skill given the amount of investment you've made, right? And so it's this recurring thing that I've seen over and over and over again, and it presents itself in different ways. Like I'll speak at some event or something, and I'll start getting into very basic math about business, just business math, like how much does it cost to acquire a customer, what's the lifetime value, things like that. And I can see people starting to freak out because they're like, I'm not good at math. And I have to lean back or lean pressure onto that belief, because one, that's a belief that will literally never serve you. It's like saying I hate employees. It's like, well, good luck owning a business that you want to grow to any appreciable scale, right? But with the math example, you can massively succeed in business knowing only not even algebra, just basic multiplication, subtraction, division. Like if you just know how to do that, that's all you need to do. And just about everyone knows how to do those things, and at the very least has a calculator who can do multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. That's it. That's all you literally need. And the thing is that people mistake that they are bad at math when in reality they do not understand the concepts that create the math, right? Cost per acquisition, right? Okay, that's a math statement just expressed in words. And so everyone gets tripped up and then they say, I'm bad at math, when in reality they just don't understand the term. And by doing that, they inherently limit themselves from learning, because they have this checkbox in their head that as soon as it gets difficult, they say, I'm bad at this. I am bad at this. I identify with being poor at this thing, and therefore will never succeed at this thing that's a requirement for being successful. And so I think that for me, one of the cornerstone beliefs that has helped me a tremendous amount, I just want to share it with you, is that if someone can, therefore I can. And sure, does that necessarily mean that you're going to go to Mars? It's like, no one's ever done that before. I think that's a next level belief. No one's ever done it, and I'm going to be the first, right? But I think if you can at least just believe that if someone has done it, it is therefore possible, and therefore I can do it too if I do the same things. And the nice thing about actions is that they are agnostic to your level of deservingness and skill. What I mean by that is, if you spend an hour a day practicing sales, over a year, you will likely be in the top 10%, 5%, 2% of people, because most people do nothing. Most people do absolutely nothing except for deal with their emotions on a regular basis and procrastinate and give themselves reason for why they are not successful, besides the obvious one, which is that it is not reasonable that they would be successful given the amount of time and effort they've put in to achieving it. And so the only reason for this is because I had that conversation. I spoke at the mastermind where the girl talked about not understanding the math. And there's just so many repeated events like this where it's like, can you ask yourself with reason, would it be reasonable for me to be good at this skill given the investment I've made? And as a corollary, as an antithesis to that example, I've got an 18-year-old kid who lives across the street from me, and I sort of semi-mentor him. He's a good kid. He works super hard. A lot of hustle. And the thing is he's too young to know that he can't do things yet. And what that does is it makes him incredibly dangerous, because he hasn't been slapped in the face by the world yet, and so he believes that he can accomplish anything. He has no reason to think otherwise. And so I've been actively trying to speak that into him, and now he's wholesaling real estate right now. He's 18 years old, right? I love this, right? And how did he do it? He watched YouTube videos for free, right? And then he picked up cold calling, because I was like, this is a book you need to read for cold calling. And so he just started cold calling based on what the YouTube videos said off of a free list that he found on the internet, and he closed his first deal as 18-year-old. And so does he have an inherent skill? No. But what I did was I prepared him mentally by saying, like, you're going to suck at this for a very, very long time. And eventually, after doing it so many times, it will be unreasonable for you to suck, and at that point you will be good. Right? And so I think if we can all approach the skills that we feel like we are deficient in with that kind of concept of course I am going to suck. It would not be reasonable for me to be good. But if I do these actions, it would over time be unreasonable for me to be bad at these things. And I think by doing that, you unlock a different ability to learn and by extension, grow. And so anyways, I hope you find this valuable. It's a belief set that I find repeated, especially in people who are smaller business owners who are getting started, etc. And it drives me nuts, because it's just saying that you can't do something before you've even started. And that's why people spend so long in the beginner stage, is because they inherently dispel away their ability to learn and get better. Because they say, well, I'm not good at that. Well, obviously you're not good at that. You have not done it. Duh. And so, anyways, I hope you find this valuable. I hope you share it, or tag an employee who you feel like needs to invest in a skill and is afraid of it, or somebody who is bad at math but has never tried or learned it, you know what I mean, or bad at drawing. And just to bring this home, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Many of you, or I hear regularly that people consider me to be good at math, right? Until I was 23, I thought I was horrible at math. I need you to understand this. Like, I believed I was horrible at math. And so what I did was I stopped allowing myself to use a calculator and said I had to do all the math in my head. And what ended up happening is I got a lot of stuff wrong for a long time. But over time, I started to get better at math because I did everything in my head. And now people are like, dude, you're so good at doing mental math. But I spend every day not using a calculator for almost every calculation I make so that I can get better. And now it seems really cool because I can do a lot of math in my head pretty quickly. But I was bad. I literally cheated my entire way through high school in math class just to get by. I told myself I was bad at math. On like the SAT and the GMAT, those were the sections I was most afraid of, right? And I studied so much harder on the math for the GMAT, and I ended up doing, hitting 99th percentile on it. But that was because I did 16 phone books of problems over 4 months. I spent 4 hours a day for 4 months. I was like, I will do so much work that would be unreasonable for me to not be good at this. And so I say that just because I feel like so many of us just limit ourselves when you just have to try. And so anyways, I love you all. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope that if there's something that you want to acquire from a skill standpoint, that you allow yourself to be reasonably bad until a point where it would be unreasonable for you to be bad given the amount of time and effort you've put into it. So also keep being awesome, and I'll catch you guys soon.